Hello, this is Anna Pacheco, SantaFe101.com. My guest today is Bridget Dixon, and she is with the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. Bridget, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Definitely, Anna. Thank you.
Well, great. Well, thanks again. And we were just saying before I hit the record button, I knew your predecessor, Simon. He was with the chamber for many, many years, and you're new to the chamber in terms of having the leadership position as the president and CEO, but you've actually been at the chamber for 10 years. So you can give us a good overview of course, pre-pandemic and what we have to look forward to in the future, but what the Santa Fe Chamber is up to these days.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you so much. Lots of changes, but I always try to see the silver lining. And with change, it's really given us an opportunity through the pandemic to be really innovative and creative and to find ways to support our businesses. We have approximately about 900 chamber members, but we really consider ourselves the voice of business for the entire community. And we've really come up with a lot of really creative ways since the pandemic to continue to support those businesses.
Well, so what are some of those creative ways that you've been doing things now in this unprecedented, crazy time in the world?
I know, right? We're constantly reinventing ourselves. So, as you mentioned, Simon Brackley was our president for over 20 years. He did a fantastic job as a dear friend of mine still. I've been with the chamber, as you mentioned, for 10 years. I took over in December of 2000. I guess that would have been 20. So, been on the job for a few months. Early on, when the pandemic hit back in March, one of the first things that the chamber wanted to do was we really wanted to know what the business climate was. We knew that there was going to be a special session, and we wanted to make sure that our elected officials knew that our needs are different from Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and other community. So we did an economic impact survey to our community. We had about 700 businesses that participated, which really gave us a great overview. Some of the things early on that they were really concerned with, obviously, was ways they could have access to the different grants and loans, whether it's PPP or it was just safe ways that they could open up their business as we looked forward. So the chamber began what was called a chamber chat, which was a weekly conversation about different resources for our community, such as like HR services, like when people if we're furloughing their employees, there was a lot of questions there. People wanted information on reopening practices, so we provided that as well. So that's something that we did early on. Another thing that came from that economic impact survey was businesses still wanted to find a way to connect with the community, even though that they can see people in person. A lot of businesses derive from that one-on-one contact. So the chamber early on started doing virtual events, and we really consider ourselves a leader in the virtual world, and we've really taken a lot of strides to make them successful. A very beloved event of the chamber is our monthly business over breakfast, where people get an opportunity to talk about their business for 1 minute. And what we've done is we do a virtual business over breakfast, and we sell it every single month. So it really tells me that people need those connections. And just last month, we started a virtual speed networking. So everyone gets to have one-on-one timed exchanged conversations with one another. So those are just a couple of networking opportunities that we've provided, along with numerous events that we've put into place to support our community. But I'll just kind of stop there for a moment.
Well, let me just ask you, because we're almost a year into this pandemic. Next month, it'll be one full year. Have you seen a lot of businesses go out of business, or are people basically still holding on, or what does the business climate look like, right, 1 year into a pandemic?
Unfortunately, I'd like to say that a lot of our business is surviving, and unfortunately, that's not the case. I mean, as you know, most of our income in our community is derived from tourism. And obviously, our restaurants and our hotels have been hit so incredibly hard. And a lot of what we've done is really try to promote shopping local. One thing that we put into place is we have something called Santa Fe Marketplace. So the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce, we collaborated with the tourism department as a way to get people to shop locally. I mean, as you know, we are so rich in culture and artists and just pottery and you name it. But a lot of these smaller retailers, they don't have a retail online website. So therefore, we create a website called Santa Fe Marketplace. It's free for any business to participate, but if you are a retailer and you're selling products and services, you can display all up to 75 images for free. And then we're pushing these retailers outside of the state of New Mexico so people continue to shop local. So that's one thing we're doing for our retailers. But yes, as you mentioned, it's hit us very, very, very hard. And the biggest thing we need to do is make sure that our elected officials go to bat to get some more financial relief for our businesses in our community.
Well, right now, as we speak, the New Mexico State Legislature is in session. And so I'm hoping that that a lot of that is being addressed right now. We're in a unique position. Santa Fe is my hometown. We're unique in the sense, and I'm interviewing chambers around the state, but we are unique in the, we are the cultural hub, not just of New Mexico, but of the Southwest. How has the Santa Fe Chamber like incorporated, or how does it, how has it worked with the cultural aspects of our city, unlike any other city in the state? And I know I'm bragging, but it's true. How does the chamber kind of work with all our cultural attributes?
Definitely, that's a good question. And not only do we have all those cultural attributes in our community, but we're the state capital.
Right.
So we've got a lot going on. So it's really trying to find that balance, how you offer that support in both places. Something going back to what we were talking about supporting our community and going in this 60-day legislative session. I believe we're like in week 4, and we're looking for the relief. Is we created a virtual Roundhouse event series for 10 weeks. Because one of the biggest challenges right now is now in these businesses, they need that relief, that for those financial, support. They can't get directly into the Roundhouse and have those conversations with those elected officials. So how do we get those constituents access to those elected officials and still in a safe way? So what we did is we created a virtual Roundhouse event series. It happens every single Tuesday. It kicked off January the 11th. We had a cabinet corner, so we had cabinet secretaries talking about what their focus is going to be going into the session. And then every single Tuesday, we have office hours with the constituents and the elected officials, as well as we're basically housing the social calendar that people have come to participate in at the Roundhouse. So we're just hoping that with that one-on-one connections, that they can go ahead and get the relief that these businesses need.
And during these virtual meetings, are people able to ask their representatives questions? Is it back and forth, or is it basically, do you have to email a question in, or how does that work?
So it's a combination of both. So what it is, we have this platform called Hop In. It's something we've been very successful with our business expo, our women's leadership luncheon, but it really gives you the ability that you have a main stage. So almost like going to the convention center and you have different types of presentations. So we have presentations from the SBDC, the Hospitality Association, agriculture. We have a different itinerary every single week. Then within that, all of our legislators, they get the opportunity to have their own virtual space, their virtual office hours, so to speak. So you can basically, with a click of a button, click into a room and have a one-on-one conversation with an elected official, and you have that access to them.
Interesting. And do you have to like set up an appointment? I guess you would have to do something, right? You just can't go in and just start talking like we're doing now. And
Actually, you can if they're there in their space. So it's every single Tuesday. It's taking place from 8 to 12 of every Tuesday. So I'm not going to guarantee, we can't guarantee which elected officials are going to be in their virtual office space. But you can kind of poke around. If for some reason that elected official is not in the virtual office space, there is an opportunity that you can actually email them and send them a question. They can follow up with you. But it's really a good opportunity, like I said, to get those constituents the access to the elected officials when they need it the most.
And what I'm hearing a lot, at least on the local news after every day for the legislature, is there's been this huge push for at least 3 or 4 years now to legalize marijuana. And according to last night's news, it's getting closer. What is as a chamber, what is your opinion of that? Or what do you think?
Really the position that the chamber takes on that is our focus is to have a safe and healthy workplace. So yes, we understand the tourism, the dollars that could actually bring in, but we really just want to be able to guarantee that we can still have a safe workplace. So that's kind of really our position on it, is until we can see that there is concrete evidence that a person's work environment can be safe, we're not going to stand by it 100% at this point until we
Okay.
have more information.
Right. Yeah, I kind of go back and forth on it, except when I hear these wonderful numbers about how Colorado's done. But I'm kind of ambivalent to the whole thing. But we'll wait and see. And then, so if somebody's watching this interview, say younger people, they can now work remotely. And of course, Santa Fe is such a destination. It's not hard to sell Santa Fe. But what would you recommend, or what to some younger people? When I'm saying younger, like in their 30s or 40s, not ancient like me. What would you recommend? I mean, because I've heard it's tough to get a business going in this town. And again, tourism, this is a good lesson for all of us here, because I mean, a lot of my income derives from tourism, because I do tours and I do talks, history talks. And of course, that's all dried up right now. What are some of the areas or recommendations you could, things to kind of safeguard? Because again, tourism is always going to be kind of the golden goose here. But, what are other areas that people should look at? Because things can happen.
Exactly. Well, technology is something that really has boomed in Santa Fe that people don't realize how many companies have looked at us, because we're so rich in culture, and we also we're rich in culture, and we've got great weather, that people want to live here. I mean, look at some of the success stories that we have. We have Descartes Lab, how they really, really have exploded. Meow Wolf. I mean,
Meow Wolf was a homegrown thing.
That's true. Good point.
Right.
Even Los Alamos National Laboratory, they're looking to have more of a connection into our community. And I do think, and I know a lot of companies in the Silicon Valley, which have looked at Santa Fe as a home base to have their business. And I think a lot of it is because we do have we have the fresh air, we've got the culture. And I know for us, it is expensive to live, but compared to the wages that you're going to find in California, it is more affordable than opening up a business in California. So I think technology is a really big one. And we should.
I know a few, just maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we were having issues, the city itself, because we didn't have the grid or whatever you need to have like really high power, super power, whatever, internet access. People that need, not just like you and I who just need basic remote. I mean, we can work remotely with our computers, but like if there is a technology company, they've got to have like a better a better infrastructure. Do you know anything about that? Has that changed? Has the city done something where it's attracting more people, or do you know?
I know there's definitely some legislation that to help expand the broadband, because obviously that's not just an issue for technology and for businesses, but now that all of our students are going to school virtually, I know it's a huge, huge challenge. So there is definitely some legislation that's being worked on for that. It's a big focus of the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. One thing the Chamber has is we have an economic development committee and a public policy and an education committee. And those committees really lay down the footwork to the focus that the Chamber is going to take for the upcoming year. And once again, our economic development committee feels very, very passionately about broadband. So I think we do really recognize that we do need to have that infrastructure in place, and we do need to have really good broadband so we can attract those type of businesses to our community.
But that was identified, that issue has been identified now for at least the last going on 10 years. Do you know if we've are we any closer to reaching, is that going to be a reality anytime soon?
I don't think it's going to be a reality anytime soon. I know they're trying to move the needle on it. I mean, in fact, the Chamber was very instrumental in getting free Wi-Fi on the plaza. So it is baby steps, because they have to get the whole fiber, and it's quite costly. And I know that it's definitely in the works. It's a conversation the Chamber and the City of Economic Development have on a regular basis. In fact, the Chamber has a task force that's focused specifically on this issue. So I'd like to just go and put that out there to whoever is listening. If you are interested in being part of this task force to work on broadband, please reach out to me at the Chamber of Commerce. It's Bridget at SantaFeChamber.com, but you can also go into Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce website, and give us a phone call, and we'll make sure that you can join us on that coalition.
Excellent. Yes, that would, I'm making a note of this so that, because what I do on the videos is I'll have like high points of this conversation. So I want to make sure that that's one of them. So somebody might ring you up and say that. So are you partnering at all, your chamber, with Albuquerque? Because I know Albuquerque, if I'm not mistaken, they have Netflix is there, and maybe I think is Facebook is going to Las Lunas. Some of these bigger companies out of Silicon Valley are going to Albuquerque simply because it's a bigger city that's right next to a major airport. So Albuquerque's got a little bit over on us, but I'm still thinking that a lot of these employees will commute to Albuquerque to work it because they're going to want to live in Santa Fe. Are you partnering with Albuquerque, or are you reaching out to these newer companies that are already coming to New Mexico?
You know, we do not work with the Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce just because we really address what our issues are here in Santa Fe. 80% of businesses in Santa Fe are small business, fewer than 10 employees. So our focus is really supporting those businesses. However, I know the City of Economic Development, Rich Brown and his team, they're doing that type of outreach. And our chamber is really focusing on supporting the businesses that are currently here.
Well, I just know because, like the Albuquerque, the balloon fiesta is like a big, big thing for the city. But sure enough, as soon as people go see the balloons, they come over to Santa Fe and I'm thinking it's the same thing. It's, Albuquerque is going to have, might have some good economic opportunities, but a lot of those people would still rather live in Santa Fe just because it's a heck of a lot prettier, you know?
It is a lot prettier. Unfortunately, what we've got to get under control, which I know you're aware of and we're all aware of, is the housing. And housing is always continues to be a challenge. The chamber it was instrumental in putting together the Housing Coalition. They formed their own 501c6. They've got a brand new executive director. And I think that's one thing that we really need to do is get the housing crisis, which is going to take us many years to do. So then we can.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to seem, pessimistic, but I think I think we have to just look forward to what else we can, we're not going to go back in time. We're not going to turn back the clock and houses are going to become affordable. It's just not. I don't think that you can stop that train, but that's just me saying that. But there are probably other ways to work with, like newer developments that may be coming in. And again, maybe outside of the city limits, people can still work in Santa Fe, which they already do, but make that attractive to them. But again, as you were said earlier in this conversation, somebody from who's making a Silicon Valley salary, it seems like a lot of money for you and I, perhaps, but it's not you get a lot for your money in Santa Fe. It costs.
Well, you do, exactly. And I think that's the reason why it seems to be a very attractive place. I mean, they don't have to deal with any type of natural disasters. I mean, we have over 300 days of sunshine. So who wouldn't want to live here? And then to have the opera and the restaurants and the
world-class restaurants.
World-class restaurants, and I'm very optimistic that even though that our community has been hit hard, I am very optimistic that our businesses are going to recover and they're going to start opening the doors up. And it's going to take some time, but I really do think that we're going to make a comeback. I mean, it amazes me how many phone calls the chamber receives every single day with people wanting to visit our community when we've been on a lockdown and they're asking us that. So I know that it's now that the restrictions have been lifted a little bit. People want to come. People want to come to our community. They really do.
And I'm thinking, and again, they always want to live here. So, I think the Santa Fe Chamber is a good place to start. And in terms of technology, there must be other types of industries that you could suggest to them, that like, what does Santa Fe need? Besides a ton of tourists right now, what else could Santa Fe, what does Santa Fe lack? I mean, what could Santa Fe really, I interviewed a woman last week in Deming, and she says, we could use a transportation, we could use like a Uber system, what is Santa Fe, what could Santa Fe really use right now that somebody might be watching and say, you know what, I could do that. Like, what could Santa Fe really use right now?
I think, like you mentioned, I think transportation is definitely something that we could always use. I mean, we were doing one thing that was hindering our community was our airport. Then Fly Santa Fe began, and Fly Santa Fe was doing such a fantastic job with securing. I believe they had about 6 nonstop flights coming in directly into Santa Fe. And then with the pandemic hit, unfortunately, those had to scale back. So I think that's big, is really kind of building that back up and getting those flights and getting our transportation running. I think health and wellness. I mean, Santa Fe has the most women entrepreneurs than anywhere else in the country. And I think the reason why that is because we're a very rich community with culture, and people are very open to new ideas to start up in our community.
And then in terms of international, do you get any, do people from around the world reach out to you? Or are you reaching out to other countries?
As far as, we do have people from other countries that reach out to us to visit and to move here. And on occasion, we'll get a few companies that'll reach out if they want to start up a business. And it seems like the trend seems to be technology. A lot of times it's be investment management. The nice thing about the technology that we've developed over the last year is you can work anywhere. You can live in Santa Fe and work in a different country, or vice versa.
Right. Oh, good. Well, our time is up here. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Any parting words of wisdom or something that people should know about? Of course, I'll have your name, the chamber's contact details. Everything will be on SantaFe101.com to accompany this interview. But anything else you want to leave us with?
I just want to continue just to tell everyone that we need to stay safe. We need to continue to wear face masks. I know we all keep saying it, but really that's the key thing to getting our businesses open. Shop local, support local. I know sometimes it may be easier to work with business. You may think it's less expensive to deal with a business in Albuquerque, but the way that we're going to survive is pulling our community together and support one another. And
Well,
also get access to those legislators. They need to hear our voice. They need to know the challenges that our businesses are having and what type of relief we need. So get to the virtual Roundhouse NM, go out and have those one-on-one conversations with your legislators.
excellent. Well, again, Bridget Dixson, Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce, I want to thank you for this interview.
Thank you so much. And I apologize for such a fuzzy camera today. The snow kind of messed up my work schedule, and I'm dealing with a terrible camera.
You look great. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.